What do you guys think? It looks awesome, to be honest.
What is going on, guys? It's Shin here from CZeroMedia. In today's video, I'm super excited to introduce you to Cafe Racer Build Series 2.0 because for the next few episodes, I'm going to be converting the Cafe Racer front end into a Gixxer front end, which includes brand new forks, brand new brakes, brand new rotors, brand new rims front and back with spoked look, as well as brand new tires front and back with wider tire in the back that's also going to require some modifications. There will be a lot of topics I need to cover, from tire selection to rim selections, spokes, the handlebars. In today's episode, I'm going to focus on the actual front fork itself and different options you will have when it comes to installing these on your old school CB350, CB550 or CB750 bikes. Before we get to the build, let me show you my brand new CZeroMedia CB550 t-shirt. You can pick this up, of course, at CZeroMedia.com, coupon code YouTube.
Alright guys, so these are some of the items I have collected for the build so far. Of course, this is not everything. There's still a lot of parts I need to purchase. But let me just go over what you would expect in this rebuild series so you get an idea of what I'll be doing to the bike. Over here, obviously, you got the Gixxer 600 front forks. You can find these used on eBay for pretty good price. I ended up getting the triple tree because initially I was going to reuse these top clamp and bottom clamp for my build, but I ended up going with just a whole new assembly from Cognitomoto, and I'll explain all of that later in the video. And with these front forks, I got brake setup as well for the Gixxer 600. These are the Tokiko brake calipers. It also has brake pads, which I'll probably renew. I want to run brand new pads, and brand new rotors are also on its way to my house. This unit came with brake reservoir and the OEM brake lever and control systems, so it'll be easy for me to mark up onto my bike. Over here, you'll notice that I have this beautifully machined conversion hub created again by Cognitomoto. And the reason why you'd want to run a conversion hub like this is because obviously bikes like a CB550 from the 70s have these spoked wheels up front.
I'll talk all about this in future videos because it might be a little confusing for you right now. But long story short, I'm going to be installing brand new tires front and back with brand new rim and brand new spokes that is custom lens. In today's episode though, we're going to focus on these forks, what kind of parts you need and what you would expect if you were to swap these out, and different options that's out there for you. Now before we start talking about all this mess up here, let's discuss what parts I can retain from a stock Gixxer 600 front end. This is a used Gixxer 600 front fork setup. This is off of a 2006 Gixxer 600. You can also use a Gixxer 1000 Yamaha R6 depending on your budget and your needs and the look you want to go for. But I decided to go with the Gixxer 600 front end because it was the most cost-effective solution, and I like the gold stem look that we got going on here. Let's go over some of the terms here. These are what's called the forks. Obviously, this is a suspension system that is linked up to the wheel. This is the upper clamp, this is the lower clamp, and this is the stem. If you look at the OEM CB550 setup, you can see the same situation here. You got the front forks left and right, you got the upper clamp, you got the lower clamp, and you have the stem that is going through the center here, which is mounted to the frame. So the easiest and probably the most cost-effective solution is to grab one of these front forks and simply swap it onto the bike, right? Not so fast, guys. You can't just get a Gixxer 600 front end and swap right into a CB550, for one, because the stem length is different. So over here I have a triple tree setup that was beautifully machined by Cognitomoto to specifically work on CB550 bikes that is going through a Gixxer 600 front end conversion like the one I have here. As you can see, the conversion stem is a little longer than a Gixxer 600 stock stem. So if you were to go ahead and put the 600 stem right on the CB550,
it will be too short.
And that is option number one, is to buy this entire fork setup and just simply swap out the stem piece. Cognitomoto makes custom lens stems for GSXR swaps for your CB550 bikes or 350 or 750. So all you need to do is buy this front end like I did here and put the stem in a press out this stem, replace the stem with the new longer Cognitomoto stem, press that in with a press in brand new bearings, and you would have essentially the correct lens like what you see here, except with the stock 600 upper and lower clamps. Now that is the cheapest way to go about this, but it's also not the prettiest and not the right way of swapping your front forks.
For one, you'll be running these unmatching in color, ugly looking stock fork clamps, top and bottom. The top one has the Suzuki logo in it, which obviously you don't want to have on your Honda, and the hole for the ignition key. So you can cut that off, powder coat it, but it's still going to be somewhat ugly. Same with the lower half, and it also has the tank stops, which probably would not match up with your CB550 tank stop location. This piece here has adjustable tank stops, so you can adjust this according to your needs, which is a nice feature. And what I like about this also is that it comes with this retro stem nut, which is different from the stock setup where it comes with like a traditional nut with an exposed hole up top here. If you look at my CB550 in stock form, it's got the retro nut holding the stem in place, and that is exactly what Cognitomoto was able to do to replicate the old school retro look.
And then there's option 2, which is the option I'm going with, which is a little more expensive because you need to buy more components, but it is the proper way of installing a swap fork on your CB550.
What's important with doing these swaps, and something a lot of people don't consider, is the fork offset, and that is the distance between the center line of the stem to the center line of the fork, measured in vertical distance. This distance on a GSXR is going to be different when compared to the fork offset on a CB550. I haven't measured this distance exactly, but what you need to do is, depending on the new diameter of the rim you'll be running up front, you need to adjust the fork offset accordingly.
I'm going to talk about wheel diameter, wheel width, and wheel selection in future videos, but I'm going with 18-inch up front instead of the 19-inch that is on the bike right now. So the riding characteristic during corners is going to change. Of course, swapping out your front end is going to give you better braking, better suspension, but you don't want to sacrifice your cornering performance by installing these front forks at the wrong offset. If you have the wrong offset, the bike might feel more wobbly, right? Unstable, especially on like highways when you hit bumps. Or if you go the other way, you're going to have a bike that doesn't really want to lean over. It's just gonna wanna ride straight like a drag bike. So installing front forks at the correct offset, while it's not required, but is highly recommended.
Now bringing this triple clamp right next to the CB550 stock stem, look how beefy my front end is gonna be. Holy crap. So I started taking apart more packages and realized that within the bearing kit there was a nice diagram provided by Cognitomoto. I don't know why I didn't show you guys this earlier, but this essentially explains what's gonna happen, right? So you got this stem nut, which I talked about earlier, that is already retro looking and nice machine finish. That's gonna come on top. Under that is going to be the top clamp with spanners holding the stem in place. These pieces, you can see that the stem is threaded right here, right? And then you got the seal for the bearing, and then the top bearing itself goes in. Then you got the frame, CB550 frame. Then you got the lower bearing, which is press fitted, and then a seal for the bearing itself. And then they give you two different spacers that you may need to run depending on your stem clearance up and down. And then of course you got the stem piece itself,
and then the lower clamp.
So that's enough of me talking about what's gonna happen with this build, the parts I purchased so far, and the reasons why I went with Cognito Moto's triple tree setup. Now we're gonna start turning things apart on the CB550 and try fitting things up.
Alright guys, check it out. I've only been working on this for like maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes, and look how far we have come so far.
I wish cars were as easy to work on as bikes. I just have the frame hooked up to the seating of my garage with ratchet straps, and now it's lifted up in the air. I took off the entire front end, now exposed with the hole that the stem is supposed to go in. Now you can see here that I already did a rotor bearing conversion in the past to fit the stock CB550 stem, which is an upgrade I recommend everybody, whether you're doing a swap or not, because the stock setup with the pins kind of go everywhere. It's nasty, it wears out fast. So I highly recommend that you swap out your stock setup with a bearing system like this, which is a video I filmed in the past. If you were to check out the CB550 build series playlist in the video description below.
So the way these work is you got the bearing with the pins that actually spin around, and you got the lace here. What I need to do is remove this lace top and bottom so that I can install this brand new bearing from Cognito Moto, top and bottom. Now coming over to the stem that was removed off the vehicle, you can see that we got the lower bearing, which is essentially upside down of what was on the bike. And over here is just some of the parts that came off the bike. That's from my Datsun 280Z, don't worry about that. We got the clutch lever, brake lever, grips, headlamp brackets, headlamp, seat, and the actual clip-ons, and triple tree upper clamp, which was chopped up and powder coated. And all of this, by the way, will be for sale, so hit me up if any of you guys are interested. Alright, so what I'm gonna do now, I think, is go ahead and remove these forks out of here from the stock Gixxer triple tree, and then start installing the bearings on the Cognito Moto triple tree and fit this into the front end of the bike, and see if I can slide the forks into the bike as well from the bottom. Alright guys, so what we need to do next is go ahead and install the stem on the bike, but obviously we need to install these roller bearings first. They give you two bearings, one for the top, one for the bottom, and what you need to do is take it out of the box and install the race on the bike. So the top would obviously snap into the top, you just need to hammer that in, and then the bottom would go into the bike, but the bearing would have to get pressed onto the stem itself. Now don't forget to put the seal before you put the bearing onto the stem, because that's gonna make sure the grease is nice and packed in there.
They also give you 2 different spacers depending on the amount of clearance you need.
Alright guys, so the top race is in, and you're gonna have a rotor bearing coming like this. And it's gonna spin in there nice and smooth. And coming to the bottom also, we got the race installed. I just need to bang in the rotor bearing into the stem and go from there. Now in regards to the spacer, I'm gonna go with a narrow one, because when I put the stem into the triple tree like so, the seal would sit nice and flush with the frame there, and it looks like that gives me plenty of clearance for the tank stops.
Now, one thing you can't forget to do here with these rotor bearings is that you need to pack it in with grease. So grab your grease of choice and just soak it up with grease as much as you can. Just get in there as much as you can, roll it, spin it, make sure it's nice and greased up. Guys, check this out. It is already coming together. I'm super excited.
Look how clean this front end looks. I'm so glad I went with Cognitomoto's triple tree clamp, because look how clean this is. I'm running no gauges, and the goal of this bike is simplicity, right? I want to clean this up as much as possible, and it definitely looks clean right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the GSXR front end on here and just see what it looks like and admire the work. And this is it. What do you guys think? It looks awesome, to be honest. I know there isn't much going on right now because it's just the front forks up here, but it looks super cool. It looks almost like a prototype motorcycle with how clean the front end is right now. I am super excited for this build right now.
And with that, I think that's enough for the day. I am super happy with how everything's coming out. And thank you so much to Cognitomoto for building these custom parts specifically designed for CB550 GSXR front end conversion like the one I'm doing today, because their products have made this job 1,000 times easier. If I was to do this by myself, completely custom, it would have taken me like at least a week. In next episode, we're gonna be removing the rear end of the bike because I'm gonna be swapping the tire and the rim combination to go with these fatter setup. I mean, look how wide it's gonna be. Just the new rim alone is going to be as wide as the tire that's on the bike right now. So it's going to be super fat. It's going to look completely different when the bike is done. I'm super excited to continue on with the build. Please smash that like button if you haven't done so already, and hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next Cafe Racer build video. Peace.